If it's okay, really wanted to talk about the music video a little bit. Are you all
Yeah,
good? Okay.
let's do it.
Um, I don't want to give my interpretation of the storyline first, so I will open it up to you all because I don't want to color anything you say. Go for it.
You go,
Me?
Alexis. Yes.
You go.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So the music video, the first thing that uh, the first thing that I felt after watching that video was, uh, I wanted to message Kane like, you just wanted me to cry. Is that why you wanted me to watch this? Because I was feeling it. I was going through some emotions. Yeah, that I think that music video really benefits. I don't want to say benefits. I think like it really pairs well with the song, you know? And I feel like sometimes when a song and a music video match so well, it kind of, I don't know, like it feels a little weird in a way because I kind of like them being separate things, and it provides either like a different way of looking at the music or a different way of looking at a visual story. The music doing that for the video. I mean, um, there's just something very powerful and relatable happening in the the video that makes me not just appreciate what's happening in the song more, but the song makes me appreciate what's happening in the video as well. So I think that's kind of like the big takeaway. But in terms of like the storyline, I feel like it's difficult to like really say what is happening because there really isn't anything that's explicit. And there is like also a moment, and I think it was probably my favorite moment in the video, where the two people that are being represented that are kind of like playing out the story for us, we see them, you know, going out together, and they go to like an arcade. One of them writes a message on one of the crane machines, and we never get to see the message. And the expression that it leaves on their partner or their friend's face, you know, they're like in shock. And, you know, I want to know what the secret is, but I'm also kind of glad we don't know what the secret is. Like, what is it that they wrote? And I think like that kind of like signals to me that we're not really supposed to know like what this story is about, because I think that is kind of like a metaphor for that. Like we're just seeing what happens, and we're supposed to kind of just uh, not have the full, you know, details. That's what I think.
Mm. I think for me, just to kind of describe what's happening in the music video for people who aren't familiar, we start out with like two Korean women who they're like having fun in their kitchen. I think they clearly live together. They spend a lot of time together. They go out on and I it becomes clear to me, or at least my interpretation, that they're a couple pretty early on. That like they do like date like things. They like pose for pictures, like sort of like making kissy faces at each other. Um, and there's also some repeated imagery of them together underneath an umbrella, which I'm not sure if it's also true in Korean culture, but in Japanese culture, like that's an image of signaling that like this is a couple, this is like a romantic bond.
Mm.
Um, and I'm just guessing that that's also applying to Korean culture because of what I'm seeing in the music video. Because like a lot of times there's no rain, and I'm guessing like you can't plan that for a music video. You're not gonna have the budget for fake rain necessarily, so you just got to shoot what you got to shoot. Um, but the umbrella's there, and it like they seem to be like this really like in sync romantic couple. And it starts out like really happy and bouncy and poppy, and like I was like, oh, this totally fits the tone sonically of the music. Like I'm not surprised by any of this. Um, and then we get to like two-thirds of the way through it, and there's suddenly some like sad expressions on their faces and like more shots of them alone or like separately instead of together, because like this whole time for the first 2/3 of the song, like they've been together in basically all the shots, doing things together, like playing together, and then they're separate, and then like one of them switches out with like another woman, and I'm like, no, just like different
There were
hairstyle.
2 groups all along. There were 2
Okay,
groups of 2 women
I
each
was
all
okay.
along.
That's when I
Yeah.
noticed it because like up
It
until
was a
that
little
point,
bit confusing, but if you looked for the short-haired girl or the girl with the bangs, that was sort of my
yeah,
giveaway of which group we were
okay,
looking at.
all
Yeah.
right. I guess I gotta rewatch it again, but like that's when I noticed there were 3 people involved instead of just 2 people. Um, uh and it became a little confusing because they'd go back and forth between like the solo shot sad faces and like them being together and like doing fun stuff, and then back to the sad faces. And I think, speaking to Alexis's point about the thing on the arcade window, the crane machine window, I I don't know if it's because I was getting this impression of the romantic relationship, and I assumed it, or if I saw it because it was from the side. I thought it was a heart, and I thought she was like drawing their initials or their names in the middle of the heart, and then there's this like, oh, reaction from the other woman, and then it's like, ooh, spicy. But maybe this is like the first time that they've had like expressed these like emotions explicitly to the other person, and that's what we're watching. But I don't know. I thought it was really cute. I thought it was really touching, and I thought like having that twist towards the end of like suddenly this is not a happy thing anymore was like really moving. Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad that you all picked up on some things. I've watched this a lot. Like I think half the views might be from me, and there are a lot of views already. And I had April watch it with me, my girlfriend April, who I am pretty face blind, and she is like the exact opposite. She's incredible at faces. I don't know how she does it. She met Doug the Pug's parents out at lunch once and recognized them as Doug the Pug's owners. Anyway, that's a story for a different time. They didn't know what to do with her. It was hilarious, and it took me halfway through the conversation to figure out that they were who they were until I heard her say, "I guess Doug can't come here," and I'm like, "Who the fuck is Doug?" And then I realized, I had her watch the video to help me identify who was who at what point, and a couple of things. We're like pretty sure Ji Yoon is not in the video. Now we haven't really gotten any
Yeah.
pictures of her face in a long time. We got a profile shot in March when she joined Double X, and we it's like her kind of turned to this way, and then we have a complete side view, almost like covered up by bangs, from just before this release, and we don't have any other recent pictures of her, so we don't know what her styling is or anything. But pretty sure it's not Ji Yoon. She has a pretty distinct look, and then I made sure that I was understanding the 2 different couples dynamic correctly by making April watch this like 3 times with me to figure it out. What I think is happening, and I had to ask you first because I will absolutely see gay in anything if there is an opportunity to see queerness. Like if it's just a little bit queer, I'm like, oh, they're gay. That's just, it's a requirement. I don't know. But I am pretty sure that's what's happening. I'm glad you pointed out the heart because I saw that too, but I was like, am I just making it? And the umbrella thing. I think that there could be a couple different explanations for the ending of the video. And one of them is something happens and they've broken up and they're crying thinking about these memories. But sometimes that doesn't make sense. There's a visual with both girls sitting, one of the couples, both women sitting on opposite sides of glass, like looking out, both looking sad. There's an opportunity for, like, I guess there's more than 2 possibilities. There's unrequited love, but I don't really get that vibe because you get moments where all 4 of the women in the story, 2 in each couple, appear to be showing some sort of like pretty more than friendly affection. There's like the laying in her lap and she's grazing her hair when she thinks she's asleep and then she pretends to be asleep again. There's the heart scene. There are a couple of just longing looks at each other, and I'm like, oh, this is reading pretty queer to me. So I think that's not a good explanation. the friend but unrequited love. And so what I am choosing to interpret it as, and maybe it's a choice and I'm totally wrong and totally off base, those moments where they are alone are not moments when they're alone. They're the same moments that we saw earlier in the video. The shooting water gun is the one that really was an easy find for that. And it's moments in the video where they are like happy to be with their partner, their whoever this is. I'm just choosing that they're gay, so their significant other. But then I think the sign on the arcade is a good explanation of like they're afraid to show it in public. And when you're considering that South Korea is a pretty conservative country, especially when it comes to sexuality, I understand that that is getting better, but like not as widely. I mean, even here, there are some areas that aren't widely accepted in the US, but I think broadly or in like big cities, it is pretty widely accepted. So we're still working toward that in South Korean culture. So my interpretation was of these women who are so happy to be together, but it's still bittersweet because there's still like internalized shame and shame from society for who they are. I don't know if that makes it sadder than just unrequited love. But that was my big takeaway from the music video, from watching it probably 100 times in 2 days.
I think that's interesting. Yeah, I was definitely wondering about knowing that Korean culture is more conservative, but I thought that was like there had been a breakup and they were thinking back on like the old relationship or like what used to be or something like that.
I feel like that's another possible explanation, but some of the scenes still didn't quite make sense to me. Like, why are the two girls still in the arcade together? And like looking at each other longingly. That's how I ended up where I ended up. But I don't know. I thought it was really good. And I started looking into like how many queer coded or just outright depicting queer relationships or unrequited love with same gender, whatever you prefer, however you prefer to call it. I started looking at how many music videos there have been in K-pop, and they're actually a good number. I wouldn't say a high percentage, just considering the number of K-pop music videos there are, and definitely some of them are just fan service or playing along with fanships. And I'm not like I don't hate representation unless it's harmful, but it's not what I would consider like really good representation of gay couples. But this one having not Ji-yoon in it at all, so like there is no fan service happening. It's not even her, and the fact that it's not out of convenience. Like if you have a 12-member girl group, Luna, and you have two girls in love with each other, well, you just didn't have to hire a male actor because you have enough members already. I thought it was a bold choice for a big first sort of re-debut under this new agency, and I was happy to see it for more reasons than one.
I mean, for me, it's even with all that, like I just appreciate how there's so much more depth than I'm used to seeing in a music video, just period and stop. Like I think them being queer adds another layer to it, but even just like having an unclear narrative and like with like relationship aspects between these people and having to sort of watch it multiple times to figure out what's going on, I think is really cool. And I appreciate that a lot.
And a smart choice for the views. Any other thoughts about this, Alexis?
About the song or the video?
Any of it?
Yeah, so